Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a couple of minutes past midday here, making it a few minutes past 1100 UTC. A really big shout out to everybody joining the stream live today, as well as all of you watching this on catch up. We have been getting so many of you coming into the show recently. I just want to say a very big thank you for all of you attending when I started doing this live in the public realm anyway, not for funds and bits and pieces, and started coming onto YouTube and met the wonderful crew that we've got over at the Bird Nest. I used to do these live streams to 5, maybe 10 people if I was lucky when I was starting out, and now we get 2,500 to 5,000 of you every single show. So a really big shout out to all of you. Hopefully you found the shows helpful. I get lots and lots of really good feedback, not just talking about positive stuff, but people suggesting things that they want to see more of on the show, whether they want to see more educational content, whether they want to see more gem picks, for example, which is I'm talking to my awesome head of FA over at the Bird Nest and talking about getting him on some of the shows with us. So we try and split this down. Monday a little bit more education focused, looking at Bitcoin, laying out the roadmap for the week ahead. Then I always try and make some actionable plays for everyone in terms of where we're looking to take positions. So we're going to review them today across Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Link, Vert AI, Estate X, a couple of others that people are asking in for. But please do remember, it is a chart request show, right? So you guys can, by all means, just pop whatever you'd like me to take a look at in the comments. And as long as time allows, I will do my absolute utmost to get around to everything for you. So without further ado, we are running an awesome giveaway at the moment with our partners over at OKX. I've traded with these guys for a long time. I've traveled with them as well, and just a really good exchange. Look, at the end of the day, when you're using any form of centralized exchange, you want to make sure you're working with one of the biggest and the best in the industry when it comes to getting your money off and on of the exchanges, when it comes to safety, security, and all of those things. But look, I'm really not here to shield you on all of that at the moment. OKX are doing a wonderful partnership giveaway for us. All right, so you can either get 603 SOPH tokens or HUMA, HUMA, and they're paying for to have 1 month premium access to our Discord over at the Bird Nest. Now, that comes with access to all the education material. You get all of the resources, private webinars, live trading sessions. But I think what most people are interested in the moment, in truth, if we're honest about it, are the trading calls. We've had an exceptional rate. I would probably challenge any group in the industry to show proven stats as successful as we've had over the last few years, let alone in the current market conditions. There's a few really good crews out there as well who we know, and huge success to all of them. But yeah, I take this standing up against anyone. So if it is of interest to you, you can go onto OKX, deposit just $100 onto the exchange, and then make your first trade, and then you get access to all of this. So do let me know. You can find a pinned tweet at the top of our Twitter profile to get involved, and ultimately you can just go in there and get yourself some free tokens. Now, I think these are going to probably do quite well, obviously labeled to a major exchange like this. So with the bullish conditions that we have, you can get on there, make some benign trades, take your free stack of tokens, and then look to, hopefully, because nothing's ever certain in this game, watch them appreciate over the next coming months as we continue with these awesome market conditions. So with that all said and done, where are we and what is going on? So let me get some charts up for you guys. We are going to take a very quick look at the news as well. Okay, so the reason for that is we always want to be prepared for high impact news events that are coming up, right? So let me just see if we can get Forex Factory up here. Let me know, guys, if you can see this all right. Jojo, good morning. Anthony as well. How are we all doing? For some reason, I'm just getting a blank screen at the moment. So let's try this. Let's try and re-add this and we'll see if we go straight in with a calendar. Here we go. This is looking a lot better now. So let's take a look at where we are today. We are Wednesday, the 13th of August. And what are we interested in here? Very much Mr. Trump and what he's got to say today. Now that's coming in 4:15, which is the time here in London. That's going to be an hour earlier, 3:15 for UTC. And it's quite an interesting time, really, because you're a few hours into the trading session there in New York. So we might see, from an intraday perspective, a little bit of hesitancy in the market today, or people really just trying to get those positions in and out before Trump takes the microphone. Obviously, he has the ability to move markets just by saying simple things. But again, it's one of those things we don't want to think too much into. You want to focus on the things within your sphere of control, right? And this ultimately, as he always is well outside of our sphere of control. So as we're looking to that, because I'm not going to be with you, obviously I will be for members. I will be available daily, obviously, throughout the Bird Nest, but my next public webinar will be on Monday. So it would be remiss of me not to look at the news for the remainder of the week, because we have PPI tomorrow, core PPI and PPI month on month. Excuse me. We saw, the markets really inject some turbulence off the CPI print, all right, which was a little bit of a mixed bag because it was kind of good. They forecasted that there would be a slight increase. Year on year was lower than they projected before, right, than they forecast. We can see that up here, which did give that initial injection into the market, right? And then we saw it kind of fall back on slightly weaker CPI month-on-month data, the core data. All right. So we're going to look towards this now for PPI on Thursday, and we also get unemployment claims coming in as well. Then we close out on Friday. We've got core retail sales. We've got preliminary UOM consumer sentiment and preliminary UOM inflation expectations. All right. So overall, what does this really mean? Well, it just means that as we go into these phases, we just want to be aware of when that news is dropping, and to also be aware of what's being forecast and how this sets up about the forecasting, right? A lot of the market decisions are made on preliminary data. So when you get these washed through, impact isn't always as people assume. Often you have to exceed or miss these figures by, a little bit more than it seems. So we don't want to worry too much about that. Really focus today on Trump speaking, though. So with that all out of the way, it's 10 past the hour. Let's jump straight onto the charts. Horace, hello, mate. CZYKIA, hello, my friend. I'm afraid I don't speak that beautiful language that you messaged there, but you're very welcome here. And I hope everything is nice and clear for you. So we're going to go back here to Bitcoin. All right. So, and Anthony, obviously, we'll cover this with you at the Nest, my friend. I know you're over there with us there, but I do cover it on live shows as well. You're just looking at the cost of production in the US. CPI is obviously your consumer data as well. It's basically being used by the markets of a gauge of like economic health, but also how the costs are being passed through in terms of CPI to people and PPI to companies. So, a lot of the market has been very, very hesitant because of, a lack of information or data around how these tariffs are going to wash through, right? That's why we've had that real turbulence. But ultimately, the market has remained very, very strong. The risk bid has remained very strong. Crypto does very well. Typically, when we have, positive risk on conditions, where we see instruments like the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 thrive, also things like the Magnificent Seven, right? Those technology heavy indexes, or the tech companies themselves, things like AI as well, showing that risk bid is very much on. So we're going to start with Bitcoin, and then we're going to work our way through Ethereum, Solana, Link, vertical AI we've been asked for. I'm going to cover EstateX with you guys as well, as my favorite project in the space in terms of long-term investments. So I want to keep you guys updated with that. And if you do have any others you want me to take a look at, please do let me know. Right, so where are we here on Bitcoin? Let me just do this very quickly. Is really zoom out. All right, we're really going to rip through these charts. If you've got questions, pop them in the chat. Often the chat is a little bit delayed, but if I see them late, I'll happily go back to those charts. All right, so why have we been bullish? Really, really simple for me. All right, so I'm just looking if we're in a bullish state of play for the bearish candles to support price. These are the areas. All right, the accumulations before the breakout, accumulation before the breakout, accumulation before the breakout. What happens if we don't get a breakout? Then you get a fake out, right? So let's just use this range as an example here. Yeah. So price ranging along. We're just going to draw these ones in for you as well so we can fully understand this. So price is consolidating, moving away. You see how it runs the lows, fails to close below, closes back in the range, trades to the range high. Very simple range trading principles, right? Meaning that when price is compressing, the market sees it as value here, right? So it's trying to break out, too expensive, trying to drop down, too cheap, fair value, right? Ultimately, what you get is these deviations or these fake outs, price returns in the range, and then looks for liquidity on the other side of the range. Let's think about, as we do, put everything in the idea of it being in an auction, right? So you've got the bids coming in here, price is cheap, getting bidded up, gets up to here, auction opens, price is too high. So what happens? It gets bidded down, right? Can I get, I'm not going to do the price of Bitcoin because the numbers are just too long, but can I get $100? No, not 100. What about 98? What about 96, 95, 94, 93? Who will give me 90? Right, 90, buyers step in. Okay, who we got 90, 90, 92, 94, 95, 98, 98. Any more at 98? Auction close. Next item opens at 98, too cheap. 98, 92, 95. You get the point, right? I obviously need to work on my auction voice. So I have some tea before I continue with that. But the whole principle is that when it's considered fair value, it's ranging. When we see the breakouts of these ranges, sorry, what I'm looking for, as we can see in this example here, is see these down closed candles, right? This for me represents the key body of the consolidation before the price breaks out. Any retest of this after the breakout, or if we leave a gap, as we did here, let me do this in green as well so it's not confusing for you guys. They're always gray on my charts, but for the live shows, I put the bullish ones in green and the bearish ones in red just to help anybody that's not familiar. So looking for these areas to be retested, looking for retests of these, or in certain instances, also with breaker candles, all right, but we'll cover that in some of the other charts. So price ultimately, what were we looking for? Price to break the prior all-time high, 109,998.9 here on OKX, and then the prior all-time high at 111,987 flat. What did we want to see? Well, when we had this expansion, right, what did we have? We had the range, we had price fake out from the lows. This is like a whole kind of power of three, AMD, accumulation, manipulation, distribution, or in this case, expansion. And then we've broken out of this area. So we look for this area to hold. So I'm looking for key levels to be respected. Where were the sellers prominent and where have the buyers looked to take control back? Well, typically this happens at prior highs, points of consolidations, or our areas of demand, order blocks, or supply. Yeah. So we get the fake out, get the expansion. So we look for retest of the prior all-time high. We're within the bullish gap. So now, as we've been saying, we expect expansion to the current all-time high, which is 123,293.3. So that's literally all I care about on this chart, right? Why? Because it's uber bullish. It's respecting all the areas I want it to expect to expand, meaning that I can now move on to the lower time frame charts to frame and make trading plans, all right? Now, I'm going to use the same principles here. And look how we can see these ranges in here, right? And I always think of the legend himself, listened to so much of his stuff years and years ago, especially with Forex, Trader SZ. Deviation, price steps back in the range, retest, sells off to range lows. Price deviation, steps back into the highs. Deviation, steps back into the lows. Deviation, steps back into the highs. Notice how all of these sharp V-shaped rejections that we're getting here, yeah? Up, back, down quickly, up, back, down quickly, down, up quickly, down, up quickly. What happened here? We didn't get that, did we? Price, we got a tiniest deviation here, right? So price step back in the range, no problem if you shorted that. You lose 1R as long as you got good risk management. But then when price breaks out above that high, which we get here, then look at the retest of this level before price moves higher, all right? Ultimately, they're the principles that we try to employ when price is trending, yeah? Like we get here, for example. We've had the breakout, and then we have the consolidation. The consolidation, what are we looking to do? Well, we're looking to trade the breakouts of the consolidation. If you break down from them, then we look to trade it back down to where price was previously considered value, all right? So where does that leave us at the moment? Well, let's pop our daily TA back on. This has just been a very, very key area. I'm just going to get rid of these to clear the chart up, right? So the blue box here represents the key area of supply or resistance here, all right? This was the key selling point. Price moved away, retest, sell off, retest, sell off, retest here, and it's aligned with the prior all-time high. What do? Again, sharp rejection. We didn't see the sharp rejection here. Price ultimately starts sticking to this level. I'd say on every single show, and any students of mine or anybody with us over in the nest will have heard this 100 times, right? But my terrible analogy about the pots of water, right? So you've got 2 pots of water, right? Normally I just do this with the pen, but let's see, right? 2 pots of water here. And within each pot, right? I'm going to do this in a rubbish way so it doesn't take too much time. In each pot, you've got a gold coin sitting at the bottom, right? Now, you're blindfolded. One of these pots is boiling hot, yeah? And one of the pots is cool. So what happens when you put your hand in blindfolded to try and get that coin? You can't get it. Your hand goes in and comes out immediately. Why? The water's boiling effing hot, yeah? You can't force yourself in to get that coin at the bottom. It's just too hot. However, with the tepid water, what can you do? You put your hand in tentatively, feeling around. You can stay in there for a while, right? Then you can grab the coin. So what we're looking for with this analogy is how price reacts at key levels, yeah? So hot water, right? Why? Because price came in and rejected quickly. Fine. Here, rejected quickly, retest, rejected quickly. Perfect. Here, yeah, price comes up. Not tons of a rejection, really, is there? Right? Because just to give this some more context, one thing I look for if I want a confirmation entry here is I don't just say, oh, I'll go short here. This one a little bit more convincing because we've got that absorption. We can see those upside wicks, right? But what I can do here is I can wait for price to come down to a key area of interest, right? So if we're looking here below this, what do we have here? Yeah. So price is moving higher. Rejection, price breaks down, breaks structure down here below this low. We look for a retest of this area to sell it into resting liquidity lower, all right? If we'd been patient, we would see a similar situation here. One of my favored things to see here, actually on both, are gap inversions, right? So this was a bullish gap here. When price closed through it here, right? Sorry if you can hear the husky, but she's on a bit of a mad one today. It's a bit hot here. When it closes below this here, this becomes resistance, right? So this is when these come purple. We look for retests of these areas to sell off. So you can either be a market participant at the extremes, right? So when price engages these levels, yeah, higher risk play, but higher reward, all right? Ultimately, if you enter here and price does something like this, you enter here, you think, great, I've seen some rejection here, or you enter around back here would be more sensible when you've got the confirmation. And price does this, well, fine. You've lost 1R, but that 1R has paid you for a lot of market data because now you're above this level here. Well, you can be pretty certain that price is looking to move higher. Well, what if you're wrong and this is actually just a fake out of this level? Well, when price steps back in the range, you can be even more confident that it's then going to sell off, all right? So it doesn't always work. Nothing in trading does. We're playing a game of probabilities, right? But if you approach it like that and you approach with that kind of methodology, as long as you understand where the key liquidity is resting and where the key levels are, that's where you want to participate. So not to kind of blow our own horn, or, well, no, to blow our own horn a little bit, really, because the team have been trading magnificently well. These are the principles that we all use. We have a crazy saying in England, which is there's many ways to skin a cat. Now, I hope nobody's skinning cats, by the way, and I don't even know really where the saying comes from, but it just means that there's a lot of different ways to solve the same problem, right? I've seen people in this industry make life-changing amounts of money, or any amount of money, with moving averages, with indicators, without indicators. I know people that trade purely sentiment, people that are trading online, decentralized. Look, there's so many different ways you can go about it, not just your strategies, but also your approach, or whether you're using decentralized finance, centralized finance, etc. The key thing is to understand your data, your system, your triggers, and then when you understand that, it allows you to trade with conviction. But one of the most important things you can understand is where price is likely to engage. So on the weekly chart, this was our big weekly gap, right? We identified this as an area we wanted to be buyers, but not just anywhere within it. I want to see liquidity sweeps. So I was interested in this here. So when price came down and we closed this candle, I was long in here, only long up into the prior area of supply, or it's not really supply this area. This is more an area of absorption. It contains all of these wicks, an area that price wasn't able to close above. So the whole premise is we're now looking for price to close above this here. We've now taken out these equal highs. So I'm moving these back, right? Because that liquidity pool has been taken, and the liquidity pool now is resting above here. So I'm now looking for, in an ideal world, we see price get the close above here, and then want to see this area flip from what has been quite clear resistance into support, and then we can start building positions higher. Also, at the minute, I'm very happy for Bitcoin to just stay ranging around this area, even climbing back into this range, because what we're seeing at the moment is the capital rotating into alts, which give us a much, much higher upside, higher risk, but higher reward. So you need to balance that, first of all, with your risk profiling, your risk management, your trade management, and your allocation of your portfolio to understand how that risk impacts your portfolio, right? You should always have a balanced portfolio. You can go full degen and just ape into a load of alts and stuff like that, and it's worked really well for people in the past. But in truth, if you want to succeed in this game for any period of time, you need to understand balance. So, Michael, hello, mate. Welcome. Apologies if I've missed any of your hellos in the chat. Why is the rectangle underneath the equal highs? Because this is just on a 4 hour, mate. So if we look at this now, we can see this was just our key buying area. I'm going to show you exactly why in a moment. But really simply, we've come back into the level. So you're like, okay, BC, no problem. But I didn't buy on the line. Yeah, we wanted to buy on this line here, generally within this area. The gray area is a daily bullish gap. The green area is a weekly bullish gap, prior all-time high, and key area that we assume here will be demand. You can't ask for more confluence than that, right? Because it's really, really simple. And please do look back across the old shows and stuff like that. I take a lot of time to explain this every single week. Yeah. The plan was really simple. If I'm long from here and it goes wrong and we go back in the range, then I'm short in the range. Yeah. So that's what that is. So Anthony, no, sorry, I just covered this earlier, mate. This one, that's just an area of absorption. Yeah. So it just contains all of these wicks. This is the area for me the market was, well, it just couldn't close above. So henceforth, when we got the rejection from here, we kind of sat back down, said, okay, maybe we kind of drop a little bit lower. And now we're looking to finally close above it. If you just look at this, or if you look on anywhere, on any chart, if you've just got a clear understanding of where these wicks, so let's say, for example, you've only got this information in front of you, right? Yeah. Well, what do you know from this? First of all, even if you're not studying anything to do with gaps or, order blocks, you can see quite clearly buyers stepped in here, right? Look where the wicks are. All through this area, we see buyers stepping in again here. Now, it depends if you want to include these wicks and stuff. For me, I typically look to start at the origin of these moves, and I'll say, okay, well, if I encompass the bodies of those down to the low of this wick, right, when I see absorption here, and remember, we've got this data. Anything beyond this hasn't happened yet. We can see buyers stepped in here, and we know buyers stepped in here. In this instance, I would wait for price to close above these bearish candles and then look to pump higher. All right. In this case, we got the pump, retest, small long, and then came back. But it meant that as we hold this level, we didn't close below it, right? And we understood we still had liquidity below this low. These type of candles are showing you that price is coming back into this area. Consider it like an area of demand, right? We would usually frame them around order blocks or the black candles here, but it's looking at this, what I would call areas of absorption. Price is driving into here, even to a lesser extent on a smaller range. If I was looking at this information here, well, I'd be saying, well, what's stopping the upside? I don't have a lot of data there for the upside, really, because price has just broken out above this. But I can see down here, if I look at all these wicks and I frame it to the body here and the low of that wick, and if I draw this across here, so when price re-engages this level, we're just asking ourselves the question, are the buyers still there? So we can move to a lower time frame and look, let me draw that with this, and look for this kind of setup, right? Well, this is what I look for anyway. A localized sweep. Yeah, so this kind of thing, right? But on a lower time frame, price comes into this level here. So that's this move here. And then on a lower time frame, if we're using the daily here, we could use something like an hourly or a 15-minute, looking for price to set a new low, yeah, break above the consolidation that formed that low, because that's where sellers were selling this aggressively. When we break back above that here, I have something, I mean, you know, it's only, but it's certainly not my own, but it's just a way that I found easier for teaching over the years, which is what I call the breaker line. It's just the top of the body line of the breaker candle, right? Because when you look in here, you will have an up close candle, meaning a bullish candle. So we'll do this in bright green. Yeah. So this up close candle, when price swept out, when price blows through that here, these people that were short were offside. They can then mitigate or close their positions out or cover when they draw back to this area, then allows them to step in with the trend. Right? Remember, that would be on a lower time frame. And we look at that whenever we get to a key level of absorption, or we get to a key level of support, or, you know, as we were talking about with our areas of supply and demand. Now, one of the other key things here as well is understanding how to play trends. With trends, we look for the consolidations to be respected and play the breakouts. When we step into an area where we get 3 really clean touches, so price comes up, what do we get? Expansion, price consolidates. So here's the low, here's the high, retest of the low. When price comes back to this area here, we're kind of asking questions. Okay, if we see that weakness on the lower time frames, we trade it lower. And to come back to this example, right? If I'd been wrong here and I'd longed this and got stopped out, well, then what I would be looking for is for price to do that. Price to lose this area and tell me that the buyers that were strong here were getting absorbed. We can also, by the way, use things like the CVD in this respect. Yeah. Looking to make sure that the cumulative volume is lining up with what we're seeing on the chart, and we look for discrepancies in that respect. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use these same principles and we're going to run this across a load of different tickers or instruments, right? But I'm going to take a sip of what I assume is going to be pretty mild tea, or lukewarm tea either, and I was unfortunately very right. So we're going to cover Ethereum, Solana, Link, Vertical AI, Estate X, and let us know, guys, if you've got anything else that you want me to take a look at, please do drop it in the comments, just like Anthony did here as well. So please don't hesitate to ask questions. I will try my very best to get around to them all for you. We're going to run them for probably about another 15-20 minutes from here. Imran Bashir, my friend, how are you doing? Thank you very much. And yeah, please do smash the likes, guys, if you are enjoying the show. For some reason, YouTube doesn't really seem to like these shows, so it doesn't really do us any favors with the algorithm. Yet we get, you know, several thousand of you coming in through Twitter and other formats, but YouTube viewings are unfortunately really, really low. So anyway, as we're here, going to look at the 4-hour very quickly, because I was saying more aggressive positions are going to be held from here. So how did that play out? Let me just turn the session breaks off. Yeah. It was just, for me, it's just the understanding that this was like the key area I was looking at, right? Whether you're taking it from the wicks, I actually favor it from the bodies. Yeah, so from the high to the low, what do we do? Is price trending here on the 4-hour? Yeah, so we've come into our point of interest. Yeah. And just remember now what I'm saying here. Okay, look, if you want to be a buyer here, like I said, I was a buyer here as well, right? So price didn't come up, you know, only got a very short-term trade in here. Price came back, made very little, and then ultimately it flushed it back out. No problem. Most of you will succeed a lot more if you just focus on aligning yourself with the trends, all right? One thing I will say, actually, is I really don't promote this enough, but all of our members now get the B Pro indicator, the Burbicator Pro indicator for free, right? This is very, very interesting, because this is Crypto Burb's actual, real, genuine trading system here. And you can configure it in a lot of different ways. The main thing I kind of use it for here, let me turn the baseline on for you as well, because the reason I want to show this is because first of all, I do a terrible job of showing it. It's not a shill because we don't sell it. You get it included with your membership. And, you know, Crypto Burbs use this to make, well, it's not up to me to tell you how much he's made, but I think you can work out a guy that was represented in Forbes 40 under 40 last year. So what have we got on here? Quite simply, it's a trend following indicator. Yeah. So if you look for the big fat line, yeah, gives us our, let me just clear this up actually so you guys can get it a little bit clearer. Beautiful. So show you on a nice clean chart. Yeah. So what are we looking for here? Quite simply, these are the divergences. It takes 10, 12 different oscillators, right? and then it works out the divergence score. Remember, when we get divergences, it's when price action and the oscillators are in disagreement. So we're setting higher highs and higher lows on the RSI, for example, but price action's going down. So what we want to look for here are key levels, and then these divergences that happen, right? So look how they happen so beautifully at these lows and highs. It gives you the indication it's active when the candle closes. So by here, you know price is moving up. Why don't I go long here? Because B-Pro, see the thick black line, is telling me that we're bearish here. So actually what I'm looking for is for price to come back underneath this, which is our smart MA, yeah, or baseline as we call it, and then trade it down lower to resting liquidity. Ultimately, I'm bullish here on the higher time frame, so I'm just staying out of the bearish trades, and then I wait for this to happen, yeah? So we get the early indication from the divergence. This is where we shift market structure. Baseline's gone orange, right, which is our in-house color. You can change it to whatever you want. And then the trailer flips here. So what do? Wait for price to come up. The divergence tells us when the corrective move is coming, yeah? And then we can enter here on retest of the baseline. I mean, if you've done that, Jesus, on this alone, you know, you'd be up 5.5% already just here on BTC, all right? So the reason I said about that is because of the idea of trend following. Ultimately, the trend is your friend until the end, all right? So things like that can really help. And there's other ways you can do it. You can use moving averages as well if you don't have access to TBN, or, you know, let me put you on here. So something I really like using, for example, and I do typically use it on the higher time frames, is the 20, which is the green, the 50, which is the red, and the 100, which is the purple. We can see these are now all back aligned on the 4 hour. And when you notice when you're in the strongest trends, what do we have? 20, so green, red, purple, all aligned. And when do you want to be the most aggressive is when they're fanning out like this, right? So look at that consolidation. There was a brilliant buyer. So now we can sit in here and say, okay, well, actually, now they're all realigned here. These are starting to fan out. This is looking like a nice area to be involved, right? I'm not advocating or suggesting you go out and buy Bitcoin, by the way. It's completely up to you, but that's certainly how I would be looking at it. Right, so let's not faff about. Let's spend 15 minutes running through the rest of these charts, but they are the principles that we are looking at here, all right? Now, ETH has been one of the easiest plays that you can imagine. Shy, hello, mate. How are we doing? Horace, come and say hello, man. It doesn't hurt. Go and do the OKX deal. Get yourself all the free tokens, get some money to throw into some alts, and get yourself over a month with us. Just come and try it. See what you think. I think we've got other ways you can join for free as well. So just go and take a look on the website, maybe. It'd be lovely to have you back with us. And thank you, everyone, for smashing the likes. Really, really do appreciate it. So where are we on ETH? Well, looking at it on the weekly here, really, really simple. Again, these are the key areas I was interested in terms of pivot points. And I just want to see how price engages. We've just been super bullish on it since we broke above this one here. Why was this key? Well, just look at it. Rejection, 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 rejection. These are weekly candles. This was an insane area. ETH just couldn't do anything. Look at what happens then when it pops above. Closes above. Nice, big, strong close, I would call that, which just means a large body candle with limited upside wick. And then we just look to trade that to the next area, right? Why is this key? Because the sellers were prominent here before. It also acted as support previously, so that's what we're looking at. So on the daily, we can see this a little bit closer in terms of the rejections. Look, price getting trapped underneath this area here, trapped underneath it here, breakout, retest of this bullish gap, which is the green box, and away we go. So this is what we've been looking at. And really, you know, you can go back on the other videos and look how we planned this out from lower, right? But ultimately, this is what we're interested in now. We've broken above this level. What do we say? Dips are for buying, right? When you're in bullish conditions, bullish trends, you're looking to buy the dips. When you're in bearish conditions or you're in downtrends, you're looking to sell the rips, all right? So sell the rip. What is the rip? Well, the rip is when you're in, excuse me, a downtrend and you get a move higher. Yeah, so there's a rip. There's a rip. You know, there's a rip. There's a rip. Ultimately, you're just looking to position yourselves on the moves higher, ideally aligning them with either key areas of supply, you know, or order blocks, gaps, or areas of resistance. So rips were for selling. We are not in those conditions now. We have been in the conditions for quite a long time since we broke structure down here, and especially since here, that the dips are for buying, right? So if you bought this dip, fine, you got a little pump of it. Even if you got stopped out, it doesn't fundamentally change. We retain structure here. We're holding key levels. We step back above. This gives you the buying opportunity. This gave you the buying opportunity. So for me now, I'm well exposed to ETH. I'm not looking to kind of add at these levels here, but I'm looking to target these above. Yeah. So now 4877, can we get this past 5K? I think that we can, but it doesn't mean that it's a good trade from here. For me, a good trade from here would, if we got it, would be a retest of this, or it would be a confirmed breakout and hold above this level here. If not, just need to be patient, right? Now, we can get to a more aggressive time frame here. We look at the 4 hour, for example, and we're just applying the same principles, yeah? So corrective move here, price has broken out, corrective move, but look, low, higher, 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 low, higher, 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 low. Price is ultimately holding these levels. It's showing you up, but it's also showing you it's finding rejection up at this level here. Again, if we look at this with the information we have, even if we had up to these candles here, we could say, okay, well, yeah, that was the key area here we were looking to break out from. We got this huge expansion. Now, it doesn't always help because for me, I'm not looking to get involved in moves when we break like this. That's why I'm happier to get involved in the moves at the range low, because I'm aware. Again, just look at the wicks heading into here. You would have had all this information by this point. Yeah, strong breakout, range low, retest of range high. Continue to short the range high and long the range low until it breaks. Yeah, so you were long from down here, short from here. Even if you didn't get back in here, you still had 1, 2, 3 really, really good trades in here. But ultimately, you know, positions like this, when you're looking to trade these for breakouts, you want to really hold these. If you were long from range low, just say for argument's sake, something like this, well, you know where you're wrong below this low. So there's no reason to step out of this position here, all right? Unless, you know, you've moved your stops up here because price came back down, fair enough. In which case, you've just got to be patient now and wait, right, for price to either correct down a little bit lower and move up, or if not, for price to establish itself back above here. Ultimately, you're asking for a little bit of trouble if you're aping into these moves here. The risk to reward just isn't there. So what do? We want to go and look for the other tickers where it is. And we can see my great TA from Monday's show, I think, actually. Yeah, from Monday. So let's just run quickly over what the plan was here. And it was a very, very, very simple plan using exactly the same principles we've discussed previously. This was a key level for me to hold, kind of equal lows here. Price, you know, again, looking at this just kind of short term here, but price absorption here, sort of. So why don't I include that? Well, it's fine. I can include that. I can try and make this go back forever. Do you know what I mean? And ultimately, you can draw whatever you want on a chart. Typically, you will see interactions of that. But I'm more interested in what's happening at the moment because there's always new data and factors entering the market. I'll use key historical high time frame levels of support and resistance. Of course, I will, to understand where buyers and sellers have been, you know, the most active historically. But, you know, on a short time frame, even if I didn't have all that back there, right, this is a daily chart, right? Even if all the information I have in front of me is this, might have to spread this a bit thin, right? But what can I see here? I can see key rejection, price sells off aggressively, price sells off again here, rejection against here, close above, retest, we're moving higher. So what does that mean? Well, it means to me that I'm interested to see what happens when price gets back down here. Notice I'm not saying, oh yeah, I take this here just based on that. Well, I kind of would, in truth, because you can see key rejection here and here. So a really strong breakout above that. And then especially if you want to wait for confirmation, you know, look for this, you know, a nice pin bar candle here, right? Price drives down, see the absorption coming in, lows again, absorption, price forcing its way down again. But look, it just can't do it. Sellers are really aggressively trying to sell this here. And then you get this beautiful pin bar hammer candle that sweeps liquidity. And then that's worth a go from there because your upside risk to reward is really good. And if you break down below the level and hold, well, you know what to do, right? If it was rejection here before, if you break down below this level and start holding, this is the deviation. You're now back in the range and you've got these liquidity targets below you. So don't marry your bias. Just wait and, you know, if you're wrong, just wait to see what the charts tell you. So our plan was really simple anyway. Key reaction here, if we close below this, we look for retests and look to go towards range low, all right? Where we are here, price draws back down into here. Yeah, find support at the level we were looking at. What were we looking for here as we moved in? Quite simply, this order block to be set, gap, price coming back down for the retest, and then to trade it higher. I didn't quite get the time frame right. I could have moved this a little bit to the left, but you can see the principles, right? We've set the order block here, the area of demand, strong breakout, telling us that price is seeking liquidity higher or seeking value higher, right? This is considered value down here. Buyers stepped in aggressively. So those buyers are now looking to sell this for a higher price. So what do? We don't just blindly trade the breakouts. Why? Because if not, you'd be buying up here. And this was an area of interest for me because this was the up move before price really moved lower. All right, this was the small consolidation before the sell-off. So looking for this area to retest, looking to move into this area here, move some stops, take some profits, and then wait for this area to be broken above. Now we can see that it has, we can see this breaking up. If you're doing this and you're taking these kind of entries, I'll show you this down here later or shortly, then you're just taking it from good positions. What we're doing is positioning on the lower time frames. On the 4 hour here, we can see close to the dynamics to how this played out. Rejection at this level, this is the breakdown, right? This has come from a higher high. This ultimately we're looking to be a liquidity sweep. So I'm happy to step in here because again, if I'm wrong, I get stopped out for 1 hour. If we step back down in here, then I'm looking to short it down into the resting liquidity lower. In terms of setups, it was the 15-minute, I think, yeah. So really simply, as we said before, right, just looking for these key areas where price is moving higher, these consolidations, we sweep liquidity below that low, and then we break out above the high. Just a very, very simple breaker line setup. I can draw it in for you. You'll see it matches perfectly with the low of the trade. Up move, sweep of liquidity, breakout here, entry on the retest. Allows us to use limit orders, which are a bit more forgiving in crypto. I normally use, a lot of market orders intraday trading because you have to be very quick, right? But ultimately, you've made money by here already, so you just move your stop loss up, mitigate your risk. But if you hold these things, they can obviously, turn into longer term swing trades. Anyway, as we are here, let me just get this off the chart for a minute so we can focus. Looking on the 4 hour, SOL is just, unfortunately, you should have been buying SOL here or here. Right now, I would either want to see a retest of this area, kind of looking at these highs in here as well. Yeah, retest of this area here would be good. We're not really leaving any consolidations on the way up. It's just been one of these absolute freight trains. So we just have to remain patient, looking for the pullbacks, right? Solana with your drawing for Monday. Yeah, cheers, Anthony. Yeah, sometimes they work out. Other times you're made to look like a bit of an idiot. But ultimately, look, trading's about percentages, right? That's what we're trading. Yeah, probabilities. So, that's why I don't like deleting stuff from the chart until we get into the next sessions, because ultimately it holds us, or it holds me accountable. So let's have a look at Link. Link has just been a beast, right? Let's see where we are with our old Link chart, right? So weekly gap. This has been our draw on liquidity for quite some time. I'm going to show you these on the lower time frames, but the reason the circle is there is because all the way back in here, we were trading this move all the way up. See all these lines? These are lower time frame order blocks pushing us higher, pushing us higher. When we ultimately broke down, we lost structure here. We're then looking for that to push price back down to our buy zone over here. Now, let's not forget, we were aggressively long this from the end of 2024. Yeah, we actually started to be actively shorting this around about here, which was a few months in to 2025, but only down to these levels, because now I don't want to short in this area here because this was a great accumulation zone before this pump. So when we're down here and we're holding the area, then we're looking to move this a little bit higher. Sorry, guys, I've been absolutely terrible with your comments. Let me have a look. Rose, sorry, mate. I didn't see you in there earlier. I appreciate the time and essence. You're very welcome, mate. Very, very, very welcome. Anonymous Architect. Hello, mate. Still absolutely in love with that, with your logo. Dot chart. Oh, okay. Looks like it's got a pretty decent RR. Love that. Love the way you look at that, right? Again, see how that was framed. Dot chart looks like it's got really good upside. If we can build the narrative, if we can understand the news drivers, a little bit of the fundamentals, if the chart looks really good, we want to be trading these assets that have a really good run in them. I think Atom at the moment is looking pretty interesting as well. I just want to understand a little bit more about the Cosmos ecosystem. Jojo, ETH, Sol, XRP. Yeah, let's have a look at XRP as well. We're just going to rip through this for the next kind of 10 minutes and we'll get ourselves put to the side. I'll deal with that just in a second, Anthony, my friend. So as we look at this here, it just looks a bit messy. All I'm saying is these are good buy zones, right? I'm not looking to short here. These are the areas that I was looking to be to either take profits or ultimately then looking to short. Why? Because look, this is a key consolidation in here. Rejection. We saw this probably in truth could have been a little bit lower. Should have allowed for those wicks, but ultimately it's just an area I'm then looking for localized liquidity. But we can see that here as well. Price ran along, we got the indication. This was obviously left on the line in terms of what happens when we get these breakouts. Well, you'll hear me use terms strong close, right? And these aren't strong closes, okay? Let me just, I'm just going to delete that for a minute. But no, I'll leave it there because it could be relevant to the lower time frame, right? Look at the long upside wicks here. We can see the absorption. Now, I like this move because we closed above, retested the gap. I wouldn't have an issue going long here, but I would like to see a strong close. See this? Strong close. Big, aggressive, bullish candles that give zero fucks about this area. Pardon my French. They just rip through it. These candles clearly do care. There's clearly sellers stepping in here. There's absorption. Price is really struggling. Breakdown, retest. What do we say we would do? Sell it, right? Price ultimately found support down here. Small consolidation before the rip. Nice. Up we go. At what point? Well, aggressive positions here when we set the new order block to the upside, but we were straight into resistance. So for me, the trades on Link here were above this area into the weekly gap. Here we got the initial rejection. Now we're moving above that. Look how we were kind of retesting this area. That's how key it is. And for me, upside targets close, 27,195 here. Obviously, if we zoom out, we can see there's some real upside here for Link. So I really do like this. I really, really, really do. Again, look how this kind of area here, this red line was so key. We actually, did add some Link all the way back here at the red line. Unfortunately, we didn't get a retest of that area. This consolidation held really well. So I'm a little bit underexposed to Link in truth, but a project I really like. And I love the Link Marines. My early days in crypto, they were just some of the nuttiest, but best and just most hardcore crypto fans out there. So where are we on this? How can we look to get involved? Well, notice we're consolidating here, right? So what do we do here? Consolidation, nice trend line breakout. Yes, it was very aggressive. Not saying you could get involved in that on the 4 hour, but ultimately we're building a consolidation in here as well. So what we can do is move to a lower time frame when we understand where the consolidation is. It wouldn't have helped us in this one because, and you do get these in crypto, which is why it's so very important to be positioning at the lows, buying these dips. Ultimately holding spot bags is probably the smartest thing for most people to do because, you buy some spot here and you see price go down to here. Well, if you're in a leverage position, that's taking out your stop loss. Capital's hurting, no offense, but most of you will have the risk management of, I don't even know, of nothing, right? You just ape into all this stuff when you understand that you're not going to do any good if you're just exit liquidity for someone. You've got to keep dry powder so that when the moments are right, you can then deploy into that. But let's have a quick look. Bert and Pepe. We're really going to have an aggressive 10 minutes now. So, but just to cover this on Link, right? So looking at the lower time frame. So what am I looking at here? Well, actually, we can see here it's not the cleanest in the world. Actually, what will probably help us out quite a lot here is using a volume profile because we've had a very clear run up here. There's the expansion. If we draw this across here, we can't, hang on. What I need to do is, apologies, because we don't have it on here. Nope. We need to be on a perp chart, don't we? Let's have a look. So, large expansion, top, across. This is the consolidation. Let's look at this, right? Retesting the range high of the value area here. That's positive. We look at the range. Obviously, these ranges develop as well, right? But we can see, ultimately, breakout from here, retest of the range high, decent long. Probably came back down on you, right? Again, this would be a very low time frame entry, but we are now back above that. Most trading has taken place here. We're coming back above the range high here at the moment. So let's see if we've got anything down here on the hourly. I quite like the hourly here, actually. Again, we can see the absorption from these lows. Just the wicks. Buyer stepped in, buyer stepped in, buyer stepped in again. Something I'd be looking at here for continuation is for price to close above this bearish gap, right? These gaps can really, really tell us a lot. So these gaps are basically allow the sellers to get involved here and push price lower. If we invert these gaps, we typically move to the next resting liquidity. Case in point, even though it's, it looks small, intraday, you had a really good opportunity here. That was a bullish gap, yeah? So we look for price to We look for absorption in here. We don't get it. Strong close into it. Then price closes below. It then becomes an inversion gap. So where do we trade it to? Have we taken the liquidity here? Absolutely not. Are we back to our point of absorption? Absolutely not. So intraday, you can trade that little move there if it is tradable, obviously, if you've got the percentages around. So close above here, we got about 8 minutes now, actually, before we get the hourly close. Close above here, invert this. This is going to be the kind of base I'm looking for, because low, higher high, higher low. Now looking for this area to be broken out above. And we can kind of look here as well and say, okay, if we really do get a strong move here, looking at the absorption from these candles, strong move above here, look for this area to hold and then trade it higher, right? So link, we are going to cover, we are going to do Pepe as well. I'll try Supra for you at the end as well. I'm not sure how much time we're going to have, mate, but I will really try and squeeze that in. So let me go full bore now into the rest of these. So let's take a look, shall we? Oh, yeah. We got asked for Vert AI, didn't we? Let's have a look where we are. I added this in here. So I don't know what to tell you. I love it. Well, I don't love it really, actually. I'm not really that way inclined, but this is very much an I told you so chart with Vert, because I have really been hammering onto you guys for a long time about why I'm buying this here. Again, I'm not suggesting any of you do that, but I am just saying if you want to be involved in these projects, then these are the areas that you buy at. Most people try and buy here when they've got 15 tons of confirmation, and then you end up being exit liquidity for people who bought lower, okay? So key and obvious area of consolidation. Just zoom out. You can see the little consolidation there, the little zigzaggy bit. Price dipped in, buyers stepped in. Price dipped in, buyers stepped in. Up, retest, price moved higher. Down, dip, price moved higher. So aside from that, fine BC, we didn't buy down there. Where the fuck do we buy now? Well, actually, if we look here, look at these long downside wicks in this area, and we can see the upside wicks here as well. If we track that back to here, I actually think this is a really interesting area. Right? Now, it's a large area, yes, but let's look at what happened here. Price tried to move up, initially found sellers. Price closed above this. I think we can probably move this down just a smidge, actually. The price closed above this, retested, it moved up. Buyers stepped in here. When we lost those buyers, again, strong close. Look at the large body candle telling you sellers stepped in. Retest, sell off, retest, sell off. Clear area of resistance. Clear area from this consolidation of support. So buying here, mitigating here. Yeah, so buying here, taking some profit. Adding here, taking some profit. So we're up at this level now. So for me, on a daily scale, this is super clean. I just want to see this area hold. I mean, look, we've been talking about it. You can see down here on the lower time frames in terms of giving you guys where we were, heavy buyers of this at the range lows. On the dip down here, again, we were looking for this. We didn't get the retest of that, but we did take some positions here on the lows being swept out. Inversion of this. What does this mean? This was the area that we were looking to hold down here. Sorry, let me move this. I think this was on the daily. Absorption, right? Not great, but look at the wick, comes back up. So what do we ask ourselves? Well, rejection here. So we could have been shorters here because we see the long tail rejection, right? We invert this with just such vigor, right? And we close above this high. This is your indication. Just look for price to hold these, right? What does our arrow tell us? Same thing. That was indicating a strong close, which we got. This was indicating a retest of this high. Not often does it work out that perfectly, right? But this was an incredibly clean asset to trade. If we're looking at this again in terms of where's our area of absorption, it was here. Wicks down, wicks down, wicks down, large wick down, close above, retest, buying opportunity. Thank you very much. So we're just looking for the same thing here, right? If price does kind of fall into resistance here, remember this is a large area. We can refine this on the lower time frames, right? Then we're looking for price to hold within this area at least. If it does step back below and starts to see resistance here, I think we could move down. I mean, hopefully, I would love to see price kind of coming back down to these areas here. I'm just not sure that we're going to be lucky enough to get it, unfortunately. But if it gets back down there, I'm going to add to what's already a pretty damn healthy bag of AI. All right. Also, let's not forget, really suits the narrative at the moment. For all you real aggressive mofos that are like, BC, I have zero patience. I can't be bothered to wait for that. Where the hell can I throw my money carelessly at the market? No, I'm joking. You never want to be careless, right? But this gap, if price is going to run particularly hot, this is the area. that is then going to look to really take off as market conditions align and everything steps in. How would I look to trade it? Like I say, with projects like this, I'm a spot holder. I'm not looking to really ape into these from a derivatives perspective, from a leverage perspective, right? You just don't need to. The upsides are so big on the spot holdings, and you obviously minimize your risk a lot. You'll remove a lot of anxiety, and you'll really stop yourselves just blowing up your accounts and getting liquidated. This looks nice. This rounded bottom as price is kind of moving in. I prefer to see a little bit more kind of aggressive moves down, aggressive jabs, and then structure breaks. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean this. Yeah, so something whereby you're taking key liquidity and you can see a really aggressive expansion. We can see at the moment this has got this nice rounded bottom to it, right? But an area I am interested in is this, and I'm just going to focus on the bodies here. Hang on. This. It's not confirmed yet, but I think this is the up move in here. I would include the wick on this normally as well, right? But this is the up move that led to the purge of liquidity. Price dominating this area. Yeah, so dominating the sellers that were very prominent here. And us getting something like this, a real kind of strong aggressive move up, and then a retest of this area. Yeah. Or a strong and aggressive move up doesn't necessarily retest it, but leaves us a nice bullish gap to get involved in here. That would be the most aggressive play that I would entertain here. Like I say, ultimately with these type of projects, you want to be buying these dips. If you weren't a buyer down at these levels, wait for this level to hold and add to your bags down here. Don't panic sell, or do whatever you want. Again, it's not financial advice. But then if we did break down into here, I'd just be looking to add some more personally. That's how I do it. But always be very, very careful about what you allocate. Make sure you've got a balanced portfolio. You're not throwing all the money in just into one or two projects, okay? But this has been one of my favorites for a while. You can go back and look on the streams where we've been covering this. Suits the narrative, amazing team. The due diligence came back fantastic on the project. The fundamental team love them. So ultimately, my job then becomes really easy. It's just a case of finding the key areas that we want to be buyers and sellers, all right? Now, my favorite project, and I've not really made any secrets of this, and why should I? So let me just take a look here at our friends at Estate X. These guys are just the beasts. Start on the daily, shall we? I love bull runs and when you get these kind of I told you so projects, because it's not really who I am as a person, but ultimately it's it's always good to kind of see these projects doing well, because you take a lot of time and put a lot of effort into them, into understanding them, right? And again, please do go back and look at these. Aggressive buyers here. It was praying for a retest of this that we never got. Bought again on the dip down here, bought on the dip here. And this, I was saying again, was just such a great place to add. Again, look at the absorption. We can see it a little bit clearer on the 4 hour. Whack, you legend. How are you doing, my friend? Always great to have you. Very old friend of mine, Whack, and a long-term member and friend of the nest. Look at these upside wicks. Just zoom out sometimes and say, okay, sellers aggressive, sellers. Oh, big pop. Buyers tried to take control of this area, closed below it, found resistance, price sold off. Price closed above this area, so what do? We buy these areas, right? Now, we've got this here as well. So we're looking at this down here. Breakout, retest of the trend line, and an area of support. Trading isn't as difficult as you need to make it. Having the conviction to do it is often one of the trickier things, right? So let's look on the lower time frame. So I want to show you guys where to get involved in this, because I've had a lot of questions coming in, and actually really nice. So thank you. Sorry, but should really say a big thank you. Had a number of messages from people who did invest in this and are making some nice money on it. So congratulations. That's not actually why I do these shows, really. I do it to showcase projects I really like, or the technicals around what I'm looking for, try and share with you guys how I've kind of built my career in this space. But I'm absolutely over the moon to see you guys doing well on this and some of the other projects. And I think this is a long run one for me. I think they're really front and center to disrupt this space like nobody else is. And it is a multi-trillion dollar space. If you don't know about them, they've opened up the world of property investing to everyone in a tokenized fashion, whereby you can just have little bits of property from all these giant portfolios all over the world, make passive income. Ultimately, I come from a property developing background as well, right? So I know the power of this. And I also know the higher barrier to entry on the financial side. So these guys are making huge moves, and they're just some of the brightest, most well-engaged people you could wish to meet. Always look at the team. If the team blows you away and the project really impresses you, that's normally enough for me to at least take a nibble at these things. Then as I get to develop, speak to them more, look at the moves they're making, speak to other partners they've got, get the teams to do the really, really deep dives. These guys have just literally, everyone's been coming back to me going, holy shit, you know, where did you find these guys? And I was like, just in truth, complete luck, right? And, you know, my good friend, Adrian, Crypto Burb, right? So as we look at this here, this is quite a nice area. I think we kind of retested this consolidation within here as well. So it really could move up to here if price comes up, or when it comes up, excuse me, and closes above this. That's when I'm kind of looking to get interested here as well. We kind of got it at the moment as well. Don't forget, I'll just draw this one in as a box. Right. This is the down move. Price closed above it. Price retests these areas, and this is where we look to be buyers. So this is where I would recommend being a buyer. But obviously, we've seen that move leave the station at the moment. So now looking for a repeat of that above this level, and then for price to really go up. I think this is just in the really early stages of being something exceptionally special. On the lower time frames, we don't really need to kind of step into these, to be honest. But we can see as we refine this down a little bit more, yeah, this is the area of demand, or the order block. Price moved above, stepped in here. Look for that liquidity sweep. Beautiful place to step in. All right. Again, long-term holder of this. So I'm just, you know, to be honest, I want to see it down here again so I can add some more, but I'm not sure it's coming there. But we'll look and find out. Right, we're going to try and do a quick 5-minute run through about 5 or 6 different ones, right? So let's start by looking at Polkadot, right? Our old friend Dot. We're going to focus on the daily and the 4-hour here. We're going to look at the same principles, everything that we've just been discussing. We're actually going to move to a weekly here as well, because I mean, look, you can see the absorption coming in at these levels. This was a little bit of a tricky move, right? Because if we allow for this through here, what do we get? Yeah, absorption, absorption, absorption. Happy days. Price closed below. Look for the short on the retest of this. Didn't get it. Price now closed above, using this as support. Happy days, looking to move up from here. So now we've got that premise. What can we do? Well, we can look for the structural recoveries. All right, we're coming off a lower low here. I would really love to see price above this breaker. And then this is go time for me. All right, Dot I think looks great. I think, let me have a look back. I absolutely loved who suggested this. And Anonymous Architect. Dot looks great. Like, it's got pretty decent risk to reward. Exactly right, Anonymous Architect. And I love the way that you look at that, because, yeah, let's zoom out for a second. It's got really fucking good risk to reward, right? If we came anywhere near these highs. Yeah. You see that? That's 1,158% upside. Now, you need to understand these projects on a fundamental level as well, right? But even if we got, you know, the average pump that we've got from these levels before, remember, this is it. Look at the retest of this level up to here, 189. Even if you got half of it, you're 100%, right? Again, you don't have to go over leveraged on these. Get yourself a spot bag. But look, even though I roughly drew that area in, you can clearly see break out of the level. This is the breaker. So we're looking for this exact setup here. Break above it, hold this area. That's where we want to be buyers, right? Same thing happened in here. Didn't quite get the perfect retest, unfortunately, but yes, Jack, yes, does our Polish friends say. So daily close above this level. If you want a level, guys, it's roughly 4.2514. Hold above that, close above that, retest here are massively for buying, and I think we might even get a retest of that as well. Okay, so that's where we are on DARK. Let's look at XRP. Yeah, absorption area, sellers, close above, retesting. What are we doing? Holding support here, yeah. Focus on this, the greeny grey or teal coloured box. What else do we do here that I'm always harping on about? I'm not saying that I'm right all the time. I'm really not. No traders are, but we are, well, the ones that last long enough are certainly at least profitable. Gap. Draw down into this. This is where people start to short because they don't wait for fucking confirmation, right? Wick down, recover. What are we doing? Holding this area. Rejection wick, rejection wick, rejection wicks. Strong close above it. Absorption starting to come in. This is where we position ourselves, right? So then on daily scale, what were we looking at here? Quite simply, this and this being closed above. And we just got the perfect retest of it, right? So this for me is where I'm looking to be active on XRP, right? So as long as we hold these levels here, I think this is a good spot. We held the consolidation, little sneak below it there, but again, then look what happened. Price comes above, retest this area along with this level of support. We've got high time frame confluence, and that's where we look to make our moves. All right. So again, if I now want to look at the next leg up, if we don't get a retest of these areas here, I can get rid of this one now because we've retested this. The reason I had both, by the way, is because this was a smaller move within the range of this area of supply, right? And we obviously had this up move here that let it down, meaning that we've closed above the breaker here as well. So we've got all this confidence of why price should be holding here. Obviously, Black Swan is a Trump tweet, market conditions, etc., can still change things. But ultimately, that's not, the market conditions that I'm seeing. Not when you turn the charts on and you're seeing the Nasdaq setting new all-time highs all the time, the S&P 500 absolutely tearing faces off and setting new all-time highs. You're seeing the dollar continuing to drop. You're seeing a VIX down at 14, for fuck's sake. And we have been seeing some decent side of the risk on currency pairs as well, which are things like high yielding currencies like the Aussie and New Zealand dollar against what are considered, your real safe haven currencies, more so like the Japanese yen. Okay. And then look at this with the Magnificent Seven. This is Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, Nvidia, and Tesla. And you can see here they're all doing magnificently well. It shows you that the money and the capital is there to be deployed into risk assets. Don't overthink it. It really is the kind of season now that a lot of people have been waiting for, in my opinion, anyway, and the opinion certainly of my wonderful team and the team, well, not my wonderful team. I have the joy of being head of trading for that team, but it's really, Crypto Bird and the Bird Nest team, and the team obviously belongs to the members. But these are the kind of conditions that we want to be getting excited about, right? This is the first real kind of sniff we've had here, looking at alt season, look at Bitcoin dominance in here. And you'll hear me say I don't like the term alt season, right? Because I think at the beginning of this cycle, I was very, very honest with people that I think there's so many fundamentally different things this cycle, the over saturation of the cryptocurrency industry, the Bitcoin ETFs, the look for approval for the Ethereum ETF, a pro-crypto president, all of these things, right, really, really factored in a major way. But ultimately, what we want to know, we just want to see Bitcoin dominance falling off a cliff. And this is just telling us that capital is ready to rotate into lower caps, right? Meaning that it's willing to go into even higher risk assets, which is a really good sign for the market, which is looking really good. And we can see total 3. We just want to see it hold above the trillion. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Things really, really, really are shaping up really very well. So let's take a quick look at BERT for you. What have we got here? So above our kind of key level here, right? So this was the play that we were looking for back here. Again, look, conviction buyer here, right? So in fact, if you go back to the show, I think I might have even bought some on this show. It was right at the beginning of January, I remember it. And yeah, we got a rejection back here. And like you do, of course, in all industries, people are like, F you. They love to see that you're wrong about stuff. Again, look, you're looking at these areas of absorption where these wicks are coming into, and then when we're getting the rejections here, look, I was long from here and I'd made a good amount of money from here and I didn't sell anything, just added more down here. Price continued to move lower. Let's draw our level of absorption across here. And this here, look, is just what we want to see. Price is above this now. I think this looks really good for BERT here. The sweet, sweet Pomeranian. I love it here. I absolutely love it here. There's so much confluence, high time frame support level. Brilliant breaker candles here, or breaker block area, up move, price sweeps liquidity out. Now it's closed back above it. Buyers should be stepping in here and here. If they flush down below this, then you could take, like, not shorting, but I'm just adding it to my portfolio, right? But I can then look to add again at this level. If I wasn't involved from lower down, then this, in my opinion, on the retest of this is a really good area to look to get involved. On the 4 hour, we can see the nice expansion higher. We haven't retested this area yet, so we might dip back down towards this here, which is at 0.044750. If not, then for price to close above this, which is at 0.052885. And ultimately, if I added here and price did come back to this level, I just add more here and a little bit lower. That's how I approach it, because I'm bringing my average buy-in price lower if I'm buying up here. So don't be afraid. Come up here, see price correct down. Oh, panic, sell at a loss. People just buy what you shed back into the market at a discount, pump it, and then you buy it higher, and then you shed it and it goes lower. So stop doing that if that sounds like you. Just understand the project you like. Understand if it's got a good narrative. Expect to hold these projects for weeks, maybe trickling into a couple of months, but you might need to be a bit more nimble in these conditions. Or maybe the bull run run really continues into 2026. You know, you get a Trump-friendly chair appointee in May and stuff like that who takes over from Powell, and the whole market goes ballistic, and the tariffs, you know, don't blow up inflation, and we don't go into recessionary measures and stuff like that. There's, you know, a lot of different options, but what we're focused on is the here and now, and the here and now tells us that this is a good time to buy good projects, all right? But we want to do it from key levels, so that's what I'd be looking at on. But let's look at Pepe. I think we've got some squiggles on a Pepe chart, even though we haven't covered it in an unbelievably long time. This, for me, along with means, and I take these as quite high time frame plays, so you can see here what we were looking for. We didn't quite get it yet. This is the key blocker for me, this gap, and this, which was the last high before the breakdown of structure. You can see the retest once we close below, and then look how that's just, this has been rebalanced now, so I'm removing the red box, just adds too much to the chart. And this green area, which is our bullish gap, is holding, so we're going to get rid of that as well to just clean the chart up, right? This low is the key point of resistance. I'm going to extract that along from here. That's what I want to see, price above, really. Yes, we've got resting liquidity up here, but this kind of still makes sense. I would just kind of put this more like this now, right? So initial rejection, breakout, retest. This is where I'd look to add some Pepe. This thing can be explosive. I have to say, I think there's better high risk plays out there, you know, that we looked at. The upside here for Pepe isn't massive. Yes, it could just, even if you bought it here and you got all the upside, it's 130%. Remember, like we were looking at some of the other projects, that upside potential is humongous. That's where you just want to be careful with positioning, but you might, you know, everybody does themselves. This is the key area for buying for me, right? So added a little bit down here. I was very fortunate that I got a really, really good head up from a very good friend of mine, Chris Crypto Assessor, who was our head of FA at the time, about buying this down here. We were looking at memes really taking off along with our good friend Justpit, and we caught a nice little move here as well. But just, you know, take some profit, add some more down here. If this thing's going to run hot, you can look for the breakout play here, or if it does dip back down lower, I still think that's a good area to get involved. On the daily, we can see here what we've been looking at. Daily gap, suppressing price, never got the breakout, did we? We had the down move here before price moved higher, breaker, bearish gap, forcing price lower. Now, this is the key move here. This is the consolidation before price swept out liquidity, setting a new low. Now I want to see price close above this here, and then ideally as well above this gap. Would love to see that kind of strong candle come back in, and then, you know, again, that's where we're looking to get involved in the market. But you would very much be playing this level to level, because we know we've got resistance heading through this area as well. Okay, so that's what I'd be looking at on Pepe. And then one more for our friend Anthony here. What was it? Supra. Let's have a look what we've got. Where was it? Are you on holiday, Whack? Very nice, mate. Hey, oi, Gordon. How you doing, me old mate? Am I late again? You're only about an hour behind, mate. It's okay. Daylight savings and all of that, right? Aerodynamics finance really took off strongly. And you're not in. You can't win them all, Jojo, right? Let's have a look. We had one more, the Supra USDT. Let's have a look. What we got going on with this beast? I don't know anything fundamentally about this project, so I can only talk about it in terms of technicals, right? So a couple of things look okay here. We're holding a bullish gap here on the weekly. Don't mind that. I'm not really respecting this breaker here, which I would have liked to have seen, but we are back above it. Yeah, the up move there, sweep on liquidity, price closed above. Again, not a strong close. Look at the upside wicks here. You can see the absorption. Actually, what I'm really going to focus on here is this. That's very much the key area for me here. Yeah, absorption here from the buyers. That got the pump. Price closed below. Sellers stepped in. Look at the upside wicks. Price sold off. Wicks above again, then price coming back down. But now we're holding this. Look how we got an aggressive sell-off before. Now we're coming down and buyers are holding this level, right? We've got this inversion gap here, which makes this a balanced price range. That's a bearish gap that's closed through with a bullish gap. So we just get that on a lighter purple. I'm just going to lock that in, just showing that this bullish gap, this balanced price range are offering the support. This is offering the resistance. So weekly close above this, Anthony, my friend, and this puppy could have a lot of upside. Again, it's very, very much dependent on the fundamental aspects, but if you've got anywhere near, let's say you get a breakout and a retest here, 1,600% upside. So for me, as long as the fundamentals and the DD line up on that, I like the look of that project, mate. But again, I'd like to see a weekly close above that level. We can see what happens. We deviate it, we step back below. And that's what's kind of causing the issues. I think I would probably be patient and wait for this. It's looking good here at the moment, but we've got the same kind of absorption pain here, really, haven't we? If we kind of extend this across, I'm just going to do this in an obnoxious color. So just know that this is the area, really, right? You can kind of track it back to this candle, the up candle here. Price moves down, resistance, resistance, sell off, resistance, resistance, resistance. So if I was looking to get really aggressive on this, I would want to see price closing above here. Yeah, so again, strong move up, price to come back down, hold this. That's where I'd look to get involved in this one, all right? But again, really good upside, so it could be an absolute banger. All right, guys, overrun a little bit there. It's going to cost me my sandwich, I think, before we go in. Sammy, I just seen you come in. All right, mate. Let's take a very quick look at Sui as well. Sui's been a fantastic project here. So let me show you my squiggle-tastic McWiggles. Again, high time frame look. Just look for the key things. You don't need tons and tons. Rejection, rejection, strong close above, absorption, 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 close below, retest, sell off, resistance. And this, which looks like the sneakiest of deviations, but we've done a similar thing here as we've just done on thingy. So I'm going to show you this on the daily, but kind of fighting with this resistance level here at the moment. So here on the daily, right, it's in a different color. I'll make it the same obnoxious color as the other one so we remember. What is this? Absorption, right? This does obviously go back to here as well, which we can see, but rejection, 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 high time frame rejection, current time frame rejection. This squiggle here is still the plan. Yeah. So this was holding here, looking nice for the breakout. Again, don't take these trades into resistance. Just wait for the market to either give you an opportunity lower, which is why we highlighted this. Why did we highlight this? Because that was the consolidation that remained untested. What did price do? Dipped into this and the bullish gap. Nice little buy opportunity on a short-term play. Longer-term plays want to see this thing above these areas here. So just going to extend this across. And that's the playbook here for Sui for me, unless we kind of come back down into these levels here. These remain untested, these consolidations. And this, we have the high time frame gap as well, the weekly gap. So if we did get a flush, I think this could be great buying opportunities here for Sui. If not, then looking for this. Yeah. Strong breakout, holding this level, and then looking to position long. If we did break back down here, you can cover, and then, or just on spot holdings, just look to add more as you go lower. All right, legends. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Listen to me ramble on. I know it's a bit of a longer show. I think we rambled on for about an hour and 15. So I hope it was of value. Just going to prep up now. In about 10 minutes, going to start our live trading show with members. So I'm going to go and get myself ready for that. I think the sandwich is going to get parked in and replaced by a banana, I think. But Sammy, you're very welcome, mate. Anthony as well, and everybody else. So thank you so much. Please do be aware of the key news events this week, as we covered before. Trade safe, be good to one another, and I'm going to see you legends out here on Monday. If you do want to find out anything more about what we do over at the Bird Nest, you can find that down in the description. Gordon, you legend, take care of yourself, and you look after Bedford. And don't forget, if you want to come and sign up, you can go to OKX, you can go to the Bird Nest, go onto our Twitter profile. You can find it pinned at the top of the screen, and you can just find the instructions on how you can get involved and just grab yourself a load of free tokens. All right, legends, have a fantastic week ahead. For those of you over the Nest, I'll see you soon. Michael, take care, buddy. And the rest of you, I will see you here on Monday.